Chapter 175. Shizun, do you like me? Chu Wanning was starting in on the last mantu when the door swung open behind him. Moran entered, carrying a pile of objects that he placed on the bed. Shizun, there were some talismans and other things you didn't take out of your outer robe. I'll put them here for you, Moran said. Without looking up, he turned and left again. Truth be told, he really didn't have the courage to ask Chu Wanning about the brocade pouch. No matter Chu Wanning's response, he couldn't imagine such a conversation would be anything but unbearably awkward. And this was to say nothing of Chu Wanning's thin face and Moran's own clumsy way with words. What was he to do if he put his foot in his mouth and upset Chu Wanning? Moran pursed his lips. His dark eyes glinted and flashed, but his thoughts were scattered and confused. Like a bolt from the blue, an unspeakable, outrageous idea popped into his head. Could it be that Chu Wanning actually liked him? Shocked by the sheer audacity of this fancy, Moran rapidly shook his head. No way, no way. He mumbled. Here was a perfect illustration of the inability to see the forest for the trees. Moran was far too deep in the woods. Had this brocade pouch belonged to someone Moran didn't care for at all, a random female cultivator for example, he would have divined her feelings in an instant. Who would keep a brocade pouch with a lock of another's hair entwined with their own, and for so many years, unless they liked them? In principle, it was a very straightforward scenario, but because Chu Wanning was involved, Moran doubted himself at every turn. People were like this. The more they cared for someone, the more prone their imagination was to run wild. Normally intelligent people would become fools and have no idea what to do with themselves. A single glance from the object of their affection would send them into deep obsession for a day or more, and a moment's silence would prompt them to embark on a painstaking investigation into the meaning hidden within. Moran would compulsively overthink the simplest situations, carefully tasting each and every detail in search of the most elusive of flavors. Had he gotten it wrong? Had he misunderstood? Had Chu Wanning merely forgotten to throw the thing out? The problem was so elementary that anyone could have figured it out with their big toe, but Moran was stuck on it for ages. Worries filled his wandering thoughts as he absent-mindedly washed the clothes in the bucket. He scrubbed and scrubbed, the water growing colder and colder as his heart burned hotter and hotter. Moran found himself staring up at the cottage. Rich golden candlelight shone through the paper of the window in its squat frame of aged wood. The flame flickered, dark one moment, bright the next, not unlike the tender shoot that had sprouted in Moran's heart, shivering and swaying. If Chu Wanning really liked him. Once, Moran had been the unabashedly thick-skinned Emperor Taxianjin, but now even this fleeting thought was enough to make him blush. He felt hot, his throat dry. It was a thirst no water could slake. The only thing that could ease the parched heat within was the man inside that room. Only the sweetness of his mouth could soothe Moran and bring him a moment of respite. Only the very man Moran had sworn up and down to cherish, protect and respect. Respect. Moran felt his burning chest had been splashed with water. He had always brandished this word to warn and rebuke himself whenever his ardent desire for Chu Wanning threatened to overmaster him. But things were different tonight. The brocade pouch was like a bundle of dry pine kindling thrown onto the fire in his heart, fuel for his wildest fantasies. Respect. You need to respect him. Moran chanted to himself, but the words were as futile as trying to douse a burning cart of firewood with a single cup of water. Those words had once quelled his yearnings. Now, those same thoughts roared up into towering flames, instantly transforming that cup of cold water into curls of steam that misted his vision. Moran found, much to his surprise, that this incantation of "you need to respect him" was finally rendered completely, utterly ineffective. Inside, Chu Wanning polished off the last mantu. Thinking to wipe his fingers, he crossed to the bed and plucked the high-tongue handkerchief out of the pile of odds and ends. He sighed inwardly, lamenting his lousy memory. He couldn't even remember to take the stuff out of his robes before washing them. Now he'd made a fool of himself in front of Moran, and who knew if he... Before he'd completed the thought, he spied a fine red cord peeking out from beneath a small mound of talismans. His heart stuttered. He reached for the red cord to take a closer look, but his hand froze midway, stalled by fear. After a moment's hovering, he drew his hand back and slipped his fingers beneath his lapels to check the spot right next to his heart. His face instantly fell. The silk tree flower brocade pouch was missing. Chu Wanning's expression was unsightly. He stood in shock for a beat as he realized what had happened. The interior pocket of the formal robes Chu Chengyong had commissioned was slightly angled. Chu Wanning had always kept the brocade pouch from the ghost ceremony within his innermost robe, but he had worried it might accidentally slip out with the angle and how smooth the robe's texture was. Thus, he had removed it to the pocket of his outer robe. He considered the heap of ornaments with mounting panic. All the candy and other miscellaneous little items were piled on top, with the talisman stacked beneath. The red cord was right at the bottom. That it was so obviously hidden made it all the more conspicuous, as though the person who tried to hide it was saying, "I didn't see it, I didn't see anything at all," while waving his hands and blushing furiously. After a lengthy silence, Chu Wanning reached for the end of the cord. He held his breath, clinging to his last thread of hope, and tugged the brocade pouch free from the jumble of talismans. Ah, of course. The red cord of the brocade pouch had been tampered with. The knot was not the same he always used. Try as Chu Wanning might to stay calm, his fair skin flushed, and his ears turned so red they looked ready to drip blood. He loosened the cord and opened the pouch. The 2 locks of inky black hair had lain entwined for so many years, 2 like the hidden feelings that had wound round his heart just as long. Now they tumbled starkly into the warm yellow candlelight, soft and supple in his hand. Moran had seen his brocade pouch, and afterward he had buried it under all this random junk, obviously trying to pretend he'd seen nothing at all. This knowledge set off an explosion in Chu Wanning's head. His heart pounded, and his mind raced madly, his face burning like red-hot coals. What to do? Had Moran realized the feelings he had tried so hard to hide? He was done for. Moran liked Shi Mingjing. If Moran discovered what Chu Wanning felt for him, he would definitely be scared off. Would the newly gentle and warm relationship that had sprung between them then crumble? Chu Wanning's thoughts were a mess as he clutched the brocade pouch. It was a long time before he was able to calm himself. He could only hope Moran hadn't figured it out. He gambled on his established reputation of being clear of heart and free of desire, and hoped Moran hadn't realized anything at all. When someone's years-long crush was discovered by the object of their affection, it would normally be cause for joy, a kind of liberation. That wasn't quite the case for Chu Wanning. He was 32 already, and long since used to being alone. Moran and Shi Mei were in the most shining years of their youth, but Chu Wanning had spent those years of his life in solitude. It never occurred to him, now that he was in his 30s, that any chance remained for him to find true love and companionship. After all, to begin a relationship, one would first inevitably have to divulge their feelings. Yet this came with the terrible, grievous risk of rejection. Chu Wanning tucked the brocade pouch away. He paced back and forth in the room, eventually coming to a stop before the bronze mirror. He gazed up into it. Years of disuse had left a thick layer of dust on the mirror's surface, and he could only make out a blurry outline. He reached up and wiped his hand across the mirror. Amidst the grime appeared a face that was far from perfect. The corner of his eye landed exactly on a scratch in the mirror. Chu Wanning blinked at himself. Hideous. He suddenly felt so annoyed, so disappointed with the person looking back at him. Why do I look like this? Moran, he knew, liked men who were young, gentle, and pretty. Chu Wanning managed to be precisely none of these things. His face was unlined, but he couldn't hide the weight time's passage had brought upon his features. He had always been mature beyond his years, and now he had not a hint of youthful passion remaining. How could he have the nerve to be with a young person, his own disciple no less? If word got out, never mind his own reputation, it would be deeply embarrassing for Moran and Xi Jinping. And there was Xi Mingjing, whose incomparably loveliness had only grown during the 5 years Chu Wanning had spent in slumber. Even when he wasn't smiling, his gently curved eyes were like luminous peach blossoms. Chu Wanning looked again at his reflection. The face looking back was surly and arrogant. Between the two of them, only an idiot would pick Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning inspected the hazy yellow mirror. If he could reverse the passage of time and induce this ugly face in the mirror to fall in love while in his 20s, he might have harnessed the vitality of his youth to rashly confess his feelings. Even if he came out worse for wear, he would have survived. But he was now over 30. His youth had fled, leaving behind only his wretched, very unkind self, along with a ferocious face that frightened children to tears. Moran was in the best of his life, and Xi Mei was a beauty who could topple nations. As for Chu Wanning, he was just some unpleasant man who would never be young again. He didn't dare ask for anything. He only wanted to hide. He only wanted to continue like this, slow and steady. He wouldn't dare entertain thoughts of reciprocation. If he could be allowed to quietly harbor these unrequited feelings, to like someone in secret, to treat that person well in his role as a Shizun, then that would be enough, he thought. He would be quite satisfied. A creak sounded behind him. Chu Wanning didn't turn. Within the bronze mirror, he saw Moran enter the cottage, carrying a wooden bucket. Neither spoke. The mirror was hazy, so Chu Wanning could only make out a tall figure standing in the entryway. He couldn't tell what expression Moran wore, or make out the shades of emotion within his gaze. Despite admonishing himself repeatedly to remain calm, Chu Wanning couldn't stop his heartbeat from quickening. He didn't want Moran to see his look of embarrassment, so he untied his ponytail and held the ribbon between his teeth. Dipping his head, he made a show of putting his hair back up before the mirror. Chu Wanning thought himself very clever. With the ribbon in his mouth, he had the perfect excuse to avoid greeting Moran. So, fingers brushed the back of Chu Wanning's ear. He froze instantly in place. Though he tried to suppress it, a small shudder rippled through him. Chu Wanning was unaccustomed to physical contact to begin with, and here was Moran touching his ear. Moran's large, rough palm skimming the tender skin of his earlobe. Though it lasted but an instant, the contact made Chu Wanning's back tingle all the way up his spine. He looked studiously at the ground. If he raised his head now, he feared Moran would see that his face was unusually flushed, even through the dimness of the room and the haziness of the bronze mirror. He bit down on the hair ribbon and mastered himself with great effort. "You're done with the laundry?" "Mm-hmm." Moran's voice was low and very slightly husky. Chu Wanning felt him lean in. The chill air lingered on Moran, but it couldn't mask the sharply masculine scent radiating from him. It was enough to make Chu Wanning's head spin. His thoughts blurred and slowed to a stop. Moran brushed back the stray wisps of hair at Chu Wanning's temple. "Shizun, just now His words faltered. Chu Wanning waited. What was Moran trying to say? As he held the ribbon between his teeth, eyes downcast, his heartbeat seemed to stall. Whatever Moran wanted to say seemed too difficult to speak aloud. After a pause, he changed the subject. "Forget it. It's nothing. Are you putting your hair back up? It's late." Chu Wanning didn't reply. His singular thought was that Moran was standing entirely too close to him. It was too hot. "Are you going out?" Moran asked. "No, I was just going to wash the dishes," replied Chu Wanning. "I'll help. My hands work fine." Chu Wanning shot back. Moran laughed awkwardly behind him, as if he didn't know what else to say. "Shizun's hands work fine, but they're clumsy sometimes. I'm worried you'll break a dish." Chu Wanning couldn't muster a response. Noticing his silence, Moran thought he was annoyed. He reined in his smile and said earnestly, "The water's cold outside. Remember to bring out some warm water and mix it in." The hum of Chu Wanning's reply sounded like both "mm-hmm" and "hm." Unclear, yet undeniably pleasant to the ear. The sound aroused the tender sprout in Moran's chest, urging it to grow faster. His throat bobbed slightly, and his shadowy gaze landed on the sliver of pale neck that showed over Chu Wanning's collar when he lowered his head. He felt that same vexatious thirst and swallowed on reflex, though he did so as quietly as possible, not wanting Chu Wanning to hear. Moran took a deep breath and forced a smile. "This mirror is so blurry. It hasn't been used for a long time. How can Shizun even see himself? Give me the ribbon. I'll comb your hair for you." With the length of lilac silk still held between his teeth, Chu Wanning had no chance to demur before Moran grabbed the ribbon. It would be too strange to keep biting down on it, so he resentfully let go and allowed Moran to help him tie his ponytail. Feigning indignance, he snorted. "Do you even know how? If you don't tie it right, I'll have to redo it anyway." "Shizun, have you forgotten? At Peach Blossom Springs, I always tied your hair for you." Chu Wanning fell silent at once. His stint as Shiasini was a humiliating piece of his past that he had no desire to revisit. He closed his eyes and scowled, letting Moran comb out his hair. But with every stroke, Moran's palm lightly brushed against his ear. He felt horribly uncomfortable, his scalp numb and his throat dry, and his scowl grew deeper. "Are you just about finished?" Moran's chest rumbled with a deep laugh. "You're always so impatient. Don't worry, I'm almost done." His voice seemed even closer than before, like it was coming from just behind Chu Wanning's ear. Chu Wanning found himself clenching his fists within his sleeves. Perhaps it was his delusion. He felt that Moran's breathing was a little heavy, like a wild beast readying itself before it pounced on its prey. Chu Wanning had the prickling sensation of being watched, as if a ravenous tiger crouched behind him, preparing at any moment to pin him against the bronze mirror, tear open his throat, and lap up the blood that spilled from his veins. Such perceptions could at times be startlingly accurate. It was just that Chu Wanning's self-esteem was too low for him to credit his senses. How was he to know that if only he looked up, he would see Moran's eyes in the mirror, bright yet shadowed, desire and reason clashing within, full of sparks and smoke? As Moran grasped the sleek silk ribbon, the clear-headed part of him commanded his body to diligently tie up Chu Wanning's hair, but the darker half of his soul was gripped by fretful thoughts. What am I doing tying a ribbon? But this ribbon is being tied in the wrong place. He felt that he should be shoving Chu Wanning against a dilapidated dressing table, using the ribbon to blindfold him with one hand while gripping his chin with the other. He should be kissing him voraciously, pressing him down to taste the sweetness of his mouth and sucking on the soft tip of his tongue. Clearly he should be nuzzling at Chu Wanning's ear and licking the tiny mole behind it. He should be breathing heavily against the shell of his ear and asking softly, Chu Wanning, my dear Shizun, why did you keep that brocade pouch? Wanning, do you like me? So painful was his yearning that he felt his heart would split open. His blood coursed scaldingly hot through his veins as his eyes burned red.